So today we're joined by Graham Hood and Marcus Quon, the co-founders of In-House Creations, a research and development studio that helps bring products and brands to life from concept to creation. They're also the minds behind Basico Branco, a premium blank apparel company that blends high-quality craftsmanship with sustainable practices, producing eco-friendly garments. Marcus and Graham have extensive experience in design, manufacturing, and brand building, turning bold ideas into tangible products that resonate in the market. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you guys? Good. One thing I read in there, like how you said eco-friendly and all that kind of stuff. I'm very curious about, because I know I've seen your guys' designs. They're phenomenal, right? But like, what makes a brand eco-friendly in 2025? A clothing brand.
So the way that we approached it is there's a couple different facets to how production works. When you talk about eco-friendly on the textile side, it starts at the farming phase of everything. So we source cotton from certified farmers, and then when we produce it, then that becomes 100% organic cotton. And then our dyeing process is all Okotex certified. So we just use certain dyes that aren't harmful to the environment. As far as like all around what we're trying to do with our brand, it doesn't just have to do with the product. It's a working environment of the people that are actually building our garments, like the factory status, like how many, I mean, it sounds silly, but how many washrooms for how many people are working, like all encompassing what production is, in our opinion, is like what a sustainable product is. It's not just one facet of it. It kind of has to be all facets brought together to build out what those claims actually stand for.
Yeah, like all the touch points.
Yeah.
Because I would assume right now, like in this gen, being a clothing company is a little interesting, right? Because you have more and more people who are willing to thrift, who are willing to like, who want quality goods, which I know you guys create quality goods. But then in that, it's like, I feel like you guys have a different task at hand because you have a different type of market from what you're maybe used to then as a purchaser. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think a lot of business owners are looking for something new and exciting. We don't just work with clothing brands either. We work with a lot of any kind of businesses. So it could be fitness studios, it could be coffee shops, it could be restaurants. And people are just wanting something that's better than just kind of the basic stuff that's been available previous to this. So for us, because we've been making clothing now for like almost 15 years, we kind of nerd out on this stuff. And for us, we didn't just want to start another brand that was just copying everyone else and doing what you'd expect a wholesale brand to do. So our biggest, contribution to the product is definitely the quality. We want it to be a product that lasts. We want it to be a product that is not only on trend, but something that's going to be here for a long time, and just something that people are actually going to want to wear. So it kind of starts with that. And then from the sustainable element as well, it's another way to kind of elevate the product, right? So people are just, and I think there's a lot of people who kind of demand some sort of level of sustainability or ethics behind a brand. So if you're a brand, it's easy to find, I guess I shouldn't say easy, but it's easier to just find a brand that says, oh, this is a sustainable brand, it's a sustainable product. We'll buy their blanks and then we'll just decorate our products and we're being sustainable. For us, there's more responsibility because we're the ones producing everything. We're the ones who are employing the people who are actually making the garments. There's a lot more responsibility on our end. So yeah, for us, like we're kind of laying the groundwork for these brands to be able to just piggyback off of what we're doing.
Yeah, even how you said like things that people actually want to wear. I think that's like what I feel about your guys' clothes, or your designs and everything. It's like they're actually beautiful. Like I'd actually want to wear them out. So you said you've been at it for 15 years. I would love to know how you guys got together, how you started working together. How did you meet?
So me and Marcus met at design school, which was Blanche McDonald. So that was 7 years ago now.
I think it was like 10 years, bro,
7 years ago, whatever that looks
like.
What
is time?
Years,
yeah. And immediately just kind of hit it off. Like obviously design school brings all different types of people into the same room, and we kind of gravitated towards each other and had a lot of the similar interests. At the time, Marcus was working for Hyphy, so he kind of showed me the ropes of the city, and through that we became really good friends in school, and then after school we started making clothing in my living room, which is when Marcus had launched or went from Minty, which was his clothing line in high school, that then transferred into what Sans Parole is now. And just through that working relationship, it kind of just, we're like doing separate things. We're like, well, why are we constantly banging our head against the wall trying to figure everything out by ourselves? Why don't we do something together, because we're always in the same room? So that kind of was the start of us working together, was Sans Parole, which was the launch for that. And then eventually my living room just got too small, and then through that we kind of got this weird thing happen in our life where we got introduced to a lady that was moving out of the space that we're currently in, which is in-house. Some life stuff happened on that end of things, and we ended up taking over the lease from her, and that was the start of in-house. Like when we started in-house, we had no idea what we were doing.
I was gonna say, that's a big jump, guys. Yeah, like even just to pay for a place. And like legit bet on yourselves.
Yeah, that was the scary thing. We kind of had the hopes and dreams of all that, but why we also partnered up together as well is because we both had our own retail brand. And as we kind of pursued through that, we just realized how difficult it is and how much attention needs to be put into that, how much financial support you might need from that. So doing anything on your own with any type of business is super challenging. So, you know, when we're kind of working side by side on other things, it just made sense to partner together. So
it's more natural.
Yeah, it just made sense. But yeah, it's funny because like we luckily kind of had a couple jobs right off the jump with in-house that kind of, I think we had like maybe a 3-month head start with our rent. But a month into that, we're like, okay, we just unofficially started a business. We have a lease, a 5-year lease on this warehouse now. Like we got to figure out how to sell. So, and
what, like at that point, because it sounds like you had stuff in the city already, like at that point, what was your capacity to sell? Like what was your relationship with putting things out there?
Well, the interesting thing is I think for both of us at the same time, but we always envisioned having a retail brand and having a brand that you're just selling. You know, you design, you produce, and then you sell it to customers. When you say retail brand, do you mean that you're in other stores, or you actually have a brick and mortar? It could be either. Like eventually, I think we still like the idea of having a brick and mortar store, but whether it's an e-commerce, like online store, whether you're selling it through boutiques or doing pop-ups and that kind of stuff. But essentially, as fashion designers, like we would design, produce our own clothing, and then sell it under our own label. But when we started in-house, we realized that, because before we started in-house, that was like 6 years ago now. For 5 or 6 years before that, we were working on our own brands, right? So we kind of learned a lot about how to source blanks, you know, how to produce garments, how to, you know, source tags, labels, all that kind of stuff. And we learned a huge amount of skills, and we established a massive resource of suppliers. So at that time, and just kind of thinking about financially, like we're not selling enough of our own clothing to pay for this warehouse. We have to get creative. So that's why we started offering the service of making clothing. And that's where in-house started, because now we can make merchandise for ourselves, but we can also sell someone merchandise, right? Hey, you own a brand.
You understand the roadmap.
Exactly. So that's kind of where it all started. And we were kind of a one-stop shop for the person who didn't know how to navigate through that. And it's really kind of snowballed and spiraled from there in a really good way. So yeah, I mean, like we kind of had the skill set already, and we figured it made sense to monetize and turn it into a business where, you know, we can actually support people. We can help people launch their businesses. Most of the people who came to us at the beginning have had no idea what they're doing. It's just, I want to start a brand. I don't know what to do. Let's look for some support to try and get things going. And they kind of came to us to lean on us for that.
Yeah. Did those people have capital, or were they like young people?
Well, at the beginning, when like the first month of in-house, I mean, we have a bunch of creative buddies that all were looking for space at the same time. So what we did is we brought everybody in. As far as like how we actually got in-house off the ground, it has nothing to do with making clothes. Like we started doing upholstery for the Donnelly Group. We were doing anything and everything that we could possibly do to pay that rent. And through that, then we started the silk screening facet of what we were doing, because we had a forearm press. Started hitting up homies that own their own businesses through that, then started making money off of just printing t-shirts. And then when we kind of capped that out, that's when Austin came in. So Austin's our other partner in in-house and in Basico Branco. And
Who has the best mustache of all time?
Yeah, you
great
can't top it.
Yeah. So what his expertise was is that he went to a technical design school. So with a technical design school, what it allowed us to do is just expedite the process of making products. We were slowly kind of getting into the movement of like, okay, we'll take on like small products here and there, a couple t-shirts, do some research and development. Like we were still super fresh to the idea too. And we probably absolutely fucking destroyed those first jobs in a bad way. And I mean, that's
entrepreneurship. Yeah.
But when Austin came in, it really elevated everything because of his understanding on how to streamline the process of the back end of making clothes. So like everything that we do now is digital. We don't make physical samples. Everything's through a 3D render. So
that's amazing.
How in-house is kind of grown. It's just super interesting, and it's very on par with how fast technology is moving in our space, because before it was super expensive to use these types of applications and have everything at your fingertips to be able to actually produce garments in this way. It was like $80,000 per computer for Gerber, which is like the CAD version of what engineers use to build out designs. Gerber was the version for clothing that made everything digital.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, on the entrepreneur front, how strong did you guys feel as business owners at that time? Like what level of the game were you at that point? Was super beginners, or
like when we started
yeah,
super beginner.
Yeah.
Like I think maybe because we had our own brands before, like maybe that gave us a little bit of experience going into it, just with, saving up money or utilizing money to invest in some sort of material, and then trying to sell it, and like kind of understanding how money moves, but very, very base level, I would say. And we only really started figuring out how to operate a business after we had committed to this lease, and then essentially committed to the risk of figuring it out. I think mentally we were both there though at the time. I can speak for both of us probably, but we weren't really interested in like growing through a career of someone else's business, if that makes sense. Like we both bartended and in the night, and that was what paid for us to be able to put everything into starting our own business during the day. So, the path was chosen very early, where we weren't trying to work for a company and kind of work our way up. That's
where did that come from though?
I don't think we really fit in the fashion industry, especially in Vancouver. It is very like the businesses that consume the space in Vancouver. I mean, world-renowned companies, but like we're not really Kool-Aid guys. Like we're not here to like chant the mantra and do these things. Like we want to have influence on the creative process, and at a corporate level as a creative you don't. You work on one part of the project, you do it for three months, 6 months, however long that looks, and then you bring it to somebody and they step on your idea, and there's no like real feedback of like why that didn't work, and it's not as a collaborative environment. Like everything that we do, regardless of who you are in our business, if you have the best idea you win. And corporate creative does not work like that, especially in the clothing industry. Like a company like Lululemon, they do so much, and there's so many people that work for Lululemon that you only get the slightest bit of influence, if any. And then something like Arc'teryx's research and development is so drawn out, so you work on the same thing for so long until it actually sees the light of day, and sometimes it never sees the light of day. So as far as like what we wanted to do with clothes, if you don't have skin in the game, you don't have influence, really. And that's where it was like, we're like, okay, well, we'll start from zero. We'll do whatever we can to get the business off the ground and to create some sort of cash flow. And then as we build, knowing that what we started isn't how we wanted to finish, it's just like every year we get closer and closer to the goal of like what we see in-house being in the grand scheme of things. And I think we're getting really, really close. Like our goal is to keep everything as like nomadic as possible and as digital as possible. And through now the 3D render aspect of our business, it allows us to be anywhere in the world and do that service, which is something that we've been working towards. And then as that moves forward and technology moves forward, there's just so many innovations and so many ways to make our workflow better, our customer experience better. So there's just been so many kind of changes. We're very, very liquid. We're never stuck on the idea like this is our identity, we're going to ride this into the ground. Like if something changes, we pivot so fast. And that's also something that as a younger entrepreneur, nobody ever told us that. We were just always on the hunt for the next best thing.
Yeah.
And it just kind of led us to, we built slower than maybe most businesses do when they're like super calculated when they start. But the lessons that we learned through that process are invaluable.
Yeah, I think there's also an element of not really liking being told what to do, if that makes sense, you know?
You're
like,
talking to the girl who doesn't like being told what to do.
100%, so you understand, right? Yeah, so it's also having the freedom to make your own decisions, having the freedom to, you know, create your own schedule. I think those are very high level things of why we were interested in kind of starting our own business. But I mean, to Graham's point, what he's saying about being able to pivot, like if you were working in a corporate company and you weren't enjoying something, you don't have a choice, right? Like someone's telling you to work on that, whether you like it or not. And I think we learned that pretty early, like especially at school. Yeah. I went to school thinking, and it was only a year program, so looking back at it, it's kind of funny, but I went to school being like, I'm going to leave this school as a fashion designer. I'm going to like do New York fashion. I'm going to do all this shit. About a month and a half into it, I'm like, I hate sewing. I don't like sewing at all. I don't like making patterns. I just like being the idea person. I like being the part of the community and like throwing events and that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
as far as, I mean, yeah, imagine if you worked an internship, you worked your way up in a company just to get to a point to understand like you don't actually like what you're doing, right? So that's one of the cool things that we've learned with in-house is there's so many different ways to be involved in the clothing industry. It could be just with the technical side of things, it could be making merchandise, it could be manufacturing, it could be branding. So those are like the four main services that we help with at in-house. But then there's a lot more to it, right? Like you could be a merchandiser, you could be a buyer, you could be an event coordinator. Like there's so many different ways that you can be involved in the industry. And us being interested in all of it, we've definitely been able to connect with a lot of people in the industry. So it's kind of cool that's kind of one of the coolest things about in-house is like we never really knew what the next step was going to be. We just knew that we were committed to starting this, and the end goal essentially is being self-sufficient. We want to work for ourselves. I don't want to have to request time off to go on vacation. I don't necessarily want to have to work in a physical location, and how we actually get to that point is the fun part of it.
Yeah. To that point though, it takes a lot of self-responsibility to actually be able to then run your life. Did you guys know that at the beginning when you're like, okay, I don't want to go work for somebody else, but then I have to wake up and do what I say I'm going to do? How was like refining that part of the period? Process
is built every day still. I think the biggest thing and the key to that is just holding yourself accountable. Like if you actually want to do something, I mean, everybody's in the creative space has always had this dream, or like you have a conversation with one homie and they're going to do all these things, but the only variable on anything in the creative space is time it. So as far as like us figuring that out, it literally just showing up every day and then making mistakes, getting kicked in the ass, turning around and finding solutions so that doesn't happen again. And that's how in-house was built. Neither of us have business degrees. Neither of us have accounting degrees. Like when we first started our business, like I did our accounting. I'm probably the worst person to do accounting in the world.
Been hit in the head a few times.
But it's just like, you know, you take on responsibilities, you learn, and through those things, like that's what I'm talking about. Like those are irreplaceable experiences. Like when you get the opportunity to fuck up, lose your own money, and then figure a way out of that so that it never happens again. Like you don't forget shit like that.
Yeah. Barbara from Shark Tank, she always says, she's like, I don't really invest in businesses. I invest in entrepreneurs, because how fast can you get up from after you failing? And I feel like that's the tell of a good entrepreneur. Like how fast can you get up after losing your money or making the wrong decision or doing something that isn't going to work to then go and try to do the thing that will work to keep pursuing. And I think so many people they fuck up and then they get stuck.
Yeah, it's true. I think just that thought alone is probably what stops 50% of people from actually going ahead and pursuing that. Yeah. It's just the thought of being like, oh, I just messed up a job, or I screwed this up and now I have to deal with that. I bet you a lot of people wouldn't even ever want to feel comfortable putting themselves in that situation. But it kind of goes both ways too, right? If you screw up, you got to get yourself out of it. But if you close like a great deal, or if you get a really good contract or something, you got to move on to the next just as quickly as when you just took that L, right? It's the same thing. Like if you're hung up on, I mean, it's good to celebrate the victories along the way for sure, but you know, tomorrow's a new day. There will be another problem that comes up, and you just kind of have to keep moving through it. So I think it's super helpful though, having people in your corner and on your team that are as committed as you are, right? So like the thought, like when we started this, again, we're just like, we have this new studio, we have to figure out how to do this. We'd be working there like 14 to 16 hours a day. And then we'd go bartend that night, be up until 3-4 a.m. and be back at the studio at like 9 a.m. to do it all over again. Like me doing that by myself or him doing that by himself would probably be a lot more challenging, right?
Yeah.
If I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed at 4 a.m. I just worked in my bartending shift, but I know Graham's going to be there at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Well, I got to go be there at 9 a.m. too. So it's holding yourself accountable and holding each other accountable, but also being open to that, right? You have to want to enjoy that. A lot of people aren't willing to commit to that type of lifestyle and that type of responsibility. So I think there's a certain type of a person who it's one thing to like dream about it and like say all these things. It's another thing to actually go ahead and do that and actually enjoy doing that. Right?
Yeah. Did you guys ever watch Shoe Dog?
No.
So Shoe Dog is, did you watch it?
Yeah.
It's a story about the founder of Nike, and there was a movie that was made about it. But my favorite part of that movie is the end scene, and he just like, his whole story happens. I won't tell you what happened, but like his whole life happens, and then, you know, he wakes up and it's raining, and he puts his shoes on and he goes for a run. And he just goes for a run to go for a run. And he just does it. And so it's like, there is a part of entrepreneurship where you have to realize, do I want to live like this? Because now this is my life, right? This is my ecosystem. This is how I wake up. This is how I breathe. This is who I connect with. Like when you guys had that awakening moment or like that lock-in moment of like, okay, is this my world? Did that feel natural and right? And did it make you just want to like double down and keep going for it? Or was it like, oh, I had to learn how to make entrepreneurship work for me?
Personally, because I was involved in sports my whole life, like I think that there's different things that you can do as a younger person that like creates like almost a level of addiction. For me, sports created that for me. And before I met Marcus and before we started this one, because I played hockey to a higher level and I quit, and then I lost that thing. And then when I met Marcus and we started doing this, I found that thing again. So when he's talking about like these 16-hour days working all night, like it wasn't me checking myself. It was my mom calling me like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need to sleep? Because like I'd be FaceTiming her and I'd be like half awake, half asleep, probably driving somewhere. She'd be like, are you okay? And it never resonated with me that like I was tired. Because I was so excited all the time. So I think that like there's a line between like insanity and just being excited that like we understand better now, and we probably wouldn't put ourselves in that position again because we know it's also detrimental. But at the beginning, when you're in that scenario of like it's either you do it or nobody does it, and when you become addicted to it, it actually becomes enjoyable regardless of the amount of sleep or if I have to go to work and then go back to work. Like the schedule, days just blend together. It's
like blind ambition.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you have blind ambition, everything is a candy store and you're just like, oh, fuck, I love this all. Yeah. And then you kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, I love this all. It's like my mom describes it as being in the sun. You can go and be in the sun and it's fantastic, but then eventually you're gonna get sunburnt. So you have to kind of recluse into the shade. So like, is that the season that you guys are in right now where you're learning how to like play both?
I think our biggest challenge right now, because there's so much being thrown at us, is just understanding where our time is the most valuable. Because we could still work those shifts. We could still work 16 hours a day, like it doesn't stop, but investing our time into things and putting things in buckets and focusing on those buckets instead of like looking at the wall and having no idea what the fuck to do or where to start. I think that's our biggest challenge right now, because there is so many more exciting opportunities coming at us and they're not all worth it. So like understanding like where our time is the most valuable, I think that's like the biggest step that we've probably made in the last year of really like honing in on what's actually going to move things forward. Not just, oh, well, I like this idea, this makes me feel good. Yes, there's always has to be like a side to the creative output that like resonates with that. But at the end of the day, we're running a business, and starting another business and trying to scale a new business, that's the biggest thing. And still feeling that blind ambition. Like I know that I'm speaking for myself, but like when we went from in-house to now just solely focusing on Bronco, I felt like I was like, I got a new like just breath of life. Like there's something about like taking everything that we just learned that maybe it wasn't the most exciting and like really putting it towards something that we see a future for, and like we can build something that really has value, because in-house is a creative agency. There's really no value behind it other than like us as individuals running that and putting out what we put out. We're not irreplaceable, but it would definitely change the whole like all facets
It's
of our
all
business.
reliant on you. Yeah.
Where when Bronco, we're building something that's greater than us, that like we don't even need to be involved in, and that's exciting. And getting opportunities to work with bigger companies and really actually like putting everything into something where before, when we would do something, there was always like, oh, well, this is what we want to do, this is what we can afford to do. And now we're getting the opportunity to be like, this is what we're doing. We'll figure the money stuff out. Like, I mean, it's built in, but there's a certain like level of excitement personally for me that wasn't really there with in-house, because it's very repetitive. You're always doing the same thing. Now we're having a lot more fun. Yeah, because we're building something for ourselves. We're not always doing something for somebody else. I was talking to a homie the other day, and he's like, well, how's everything going? I was like, well, imagine you were a songwriter and all you did was write songs and hits for somebody else, and you're an artist and you never put anything out yourself. Like, we're finally putting something out ourselves, which is super exciting.
How have you guys developed your partnership? Because you guys seem like you bounce off each other really well, but like, how have you leaned into your partnership? Like, how has that grown?
I think in a sense, opposites attract, you know, like we get along really well. Like, we're interested in a lot of the same things. But there's a difference between like a friendship and then a business partnership. For me, I mean, I grew up in Vancouver. I met Graham right when he had moved to Vancouver. I was promoting with Hyphy, which is, you know, was one of the more prominent promoters at the time. So like every weekend we were going out, we were ripping it up, we were partying, like we're having a lot of fun. And I have a lot of awesome friends, and I've made a lot of awesome, you know, I've made a lot of, I have a lot of relationships, I guess, in this.
I'm popular, all right.
Well, I like making friends, right?
Yeah.
And he's a very, very social person as well, and that was kind of cool to him. So that like initially was like, oh, let's go out on the weekend, like we're in school all week, like let's go have some fun. But then you start kind of working side by side as well, right? And like, again, we're working on our own things separately at the time, but my biggest challenge was probably the business side of things, or being, you know, not being super comfortable being in uncomfortable situations, if that makes sense. Whereas for him, he'll go walk up to any stranger, and not shameless in a bad way, but he'll go, he has no fear in that sense, and like the social side of it. So I kind of saw a different side of, you know, how to interact with people. And then I think for him, for me, it was like, you're so tapped into this city, and like there's more to it than just like selling to your homies and that kind of stuff. So I think that was like the initial thing. But yeah, just like with a good partnership, you kind of have to complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. So, you know, we kind of each trust each other at this point to, like, for him, like, I know what he's good at. I know he's going to go make new relationships and new business and all that kind of stuff. You just kind of let him fly with that, and then understanding when to like dial it back, right? And same thing for me. I might get super focused on one side of thing, the behind the scenes stuff, and then he might be like, hey, like, come on, like, that's good, like, you need to shift your focus here. So I think, yeah, it's just, and especially with Austin as well, our other partner, it just worked perfectly. It's very hard to come into somewhat of an operating business and just kind of provide your value and really help take things off. And, you know, maybe you could say that we kind of got lucky with that, but at the same time, you kind of create your own luck.
I think it takes the right person. Like Kevin and Mike, they were solid. And me coming to the plate and becoming a partner, it had to be the right people, and you had to have the right sauce. Like you had to have the right thing that the other person didn't have. Yeah. How did you guys build and develop trust over the years?
Showing up. I think at the end of the day, like me personally, when I think about who I want to work with, who I want to invest with, and who I want to actually like build my life internally in business and then outwards facing, it's just people that show up, people that tell you they're going to do something and they do it every day. I think in the creative side of whether it's whatever medium you're in, think that's what artists lack the most of, is accountability. Everybody wants to do stuff. Everybody has these ideas, but execution, and again, going back to like just time in, when you see somebody showing up for you day over day over day and getting hit just as many times as you, getting back up, figuring it out, not wavering on like what happened, and always being solution based, and not just getting stuck in the moments of like, oh, we fucked up. Like, what's the solution? Like, that's my biggest thing with Marcus, is that every time something happens, we never dwell on it. It's always solution focused. And I think that's the hardest thing to find with people, and to like mix that, because some people want to dwell on it. They want to like
100%.
go deep into it. Why did this happen? Who cares why? That's our attitude. It's like, fix it, make it better, rekindle that relationship, do something to go out of your way to make those people feel like you care. And that keeps customers. And when you have somebody that's backing you all the time, and you're building that rapport with each other and everybody that's supporting your business, that was my biggest draw to him, as far as just like, who cares?
It just sounds like a lot of integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I understand how you were able to develop that integrity as a young person with sports, but like, where do you think that came for you?
Well, I played team sports growing up as well. Definitely not to the extent of what Graham did, but just that being instilled in me from a young age is super helpful. I think there's an element of kind of humility as well too, where it's like, if you're this cocky individual and like you think you know best and you can do it best and you can do it better than everyone, then you're going to have a hard time fitting in a team or creating a team around you. So there's definitely like a few moments where it's kind of just all right, I might be uncomfortable like delegating this, but like, you do this and like show me, and let's hope it works out. And like, you kind of have to take a step back sometimes to be like, I'm not the only decision maker. At the time, we're 50-50 partners, so my opinion and my ideas are just as important as his. And sometimes, and now especially with three of us, like my idea, two of them might hate, but it might be the one that actually works the best. Or like, two people could love one design, but then everyone else loves the one that none of us liked, right? So it's kind of just being able to take a step back and understand, like, you're not personally going to make every right decision. The team collectively isn't going to make every right decision, but to Graham's point, we're all working towards that same goal. Just understand, no one's trying to make a decision to sabotage all of us, right? Like, no one's doing this to be like, I'm just doing this to make a point. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. Like, my idea is going. So it's just, an element of like playing team sports growing up. And then just understanding like what's really important, right? Like, if we wanted to do something that was about us as individuals, then we probably wouldn't be in this industry, or we'd be focused on a career that's more about personal gain rather than something bigger than just us as individuals or us as a brand. Just trying to be part of something that's more than just, your own shit.
Yeah, the hardest thing, in my opinion, just working with creatives across the board, is that there's a lot of ego that goes into the creative side of anything, because people are emotionally attached to whatever their output is. So when you can have a situation with multiple opinions and then break that down and have a place where you land that's not guided by ego, that's how you actually win in creative. Like, yes, there's certain situations where like you're the best at what you do and you have a team that follows you and you lead in certain ways, but we were brand new to this. We just loved the idea of what we were going to do. It wasn't that we were the best at it now and then everybody has to do what we say. Is we learned so much shit together, and like, he is better than me at a lot of things, and then vice versa, and then you just start putting the blocks together. So it's just the ego side of creative is what is a big part of like the detriment to a lot of businesses and to
people,
across,
to the
people
creatives.
in general.
There was a time when we had a creative on our team, and very like, I am the creative, I am this person. And then I remember going through building our documentary, and I actually come from like, I was an EA for an entrepreneur. He had 8 businesses. So I have much more of like the operational side of the brain, right? And then when I met Kev, I was like, you make really dope shit and I know how to make this corporate. And so that's why we linked up. And through that, I was always giving creative feedback. And so it's like, it's not about, if my job is to sell this phone or this lip gloss, it's about selling the lip gloss. Like, I don't care about everything else that you've done. Yes, let's make it cool, but if your shot doesn't work for the ROI, then like we have to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I remember we had the creative who just like couldn't understand that. And I just, it's such a detriment to what you can actually create, because sometimes when you have a box to create in, it almost forces you to become more creative. 100%. And what I mean by that is you have to figure out, how do I be creative within these confines of what I'm capable of doing?
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So how have you guys learned to give creative feedback?
To each other?
Yeah. Or to other creatives.
I think that when it comes to people that work for us, it's a different process compared to when we're going over something and coming to a conclusion together. I think that we openly speak to each other in a way that we have a formula that we can get to a conclusion without just going one way. Like, it's usually a collaboration of ideas, like an accumulation of, whether it's me, Austin, and Marcus, whatever we're talking about. We've never got to a place where we're stuck. We'll always figure out a conversation to find a way through it. When we're dealing with creatives that work for us, we have an expectation. So it's a little bit more guided, but still at the end of the day, we do always take their insight, because anything that we do is subjective.
Yeah.
And we've hired these people for a reason. And sometimes they surprise us. And lots of the times they surprise us. And it really just comes down to whoever has the best idea wins. So internally with the owners, we have a way that we speak to each other that it's not confrontational, and we always do come to a solution, whether it's an hour conversation, a 3 or 4 hour conversation, everything always gets worked out. But also on that side of things, now where we're at, whatever his creative output is, whatever my creative output is, whatever Austin's creative output is, we typically don't cross boundaries anymore, because we trust each other enough to do that stuff. Because of the volume that we're now doing, and because it's subjective. Like, for example, when we make a collection for a professional sports team, I do art direction with a graphic designer. The only time I ever show them is when everything is done in our eyes, like mine and my designer's eyes, and they'll give us feedback. And just because they give me feedback doesn't mean I change things. Yeah. Right? Because when we spend too much time dwelling on something, our output goes down, and you essentially just lose that feeling of like why you created something. So we're very open to like just trusting each other in our own departments. And then yes, we always show each other and run stuff by each other, but at the end of the day, when we're building something for somebody else, it doesn't really matter necessarily what our immediate opinions are, or like our emotional attachment to something is. It doesn't matter, because we're trying to sell it to somebody else in a different market that owns a different business than us.
And they know their people.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And we try to make things for a business. Like, for example, when we work with the Canucks, we kind of have an idea of their overall vibe, and we try to hit all of the pockets. We're not just trying to design one type of product, one type of graphic. We want to be diverse. We want to appeal to the younger buyer, the older buyer. So in that, there's so many different like riffs and ideas off of like what this general collection is going to be, that when we go into it and we start like tearing it apart, we're just wasting time.
Yeah.
So we really do kind of give each other creative freedom at this point.
But you had to have learned that you're wasting time.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think the sports teams is the best example of that. So when we did our first like full season with the Canucks, we pitched them 40 designs, and they picked 16, which is pretty good. Like, I don't think they carry 16 SKUs from any other brand. Yeah. So like, okay, this time we're going to pitch them way more, and they're going to double their SKUs. We pitched them literally like 200 designs, and they picked 20 designs. Yeah. Right? Because they know that no matter how many there are, like these 20 are going to sell within this time frame at this rate. So, and the amount of designs that we loved that got left out of that collection from their selections, at the time, it drove us crazy, because we're like, oh, how did you leave that one? Blah, blah, blah. But now we're just talking about like spending our time correctly and, you know, not wasting extra time. Now we know with any team, like if we pitch 20 to 40 designs, they're going to pick anywhere from 5 to 15 designs. And that's just pretty standard, right? So I think at this point in our careers too, there's definitely an element of results really are what matters. So for us to kind of dwell on like the certain creative elements and argue on back and forth, blah, 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 we understand at this point, like we have enough data to show like probably what the consumers want, or what the clients want, or what the, you know, the public wants. So it's always nice to be able to kind of play devil's advocate too. Sometimes like if we all see something and we all love it and there's no feedback at all, usually one of us will find a reason to kind of be like, oh, well, you know, have we thought about this? Have we thought about that? Even if I don't necessarily, or whoever doesn't necessarily believe that, it's more so like, we're a team, we may as well utilize each other's opinions to get the best version out of it. And, you know, sometimes you make a revision and it just shows you that you actually like the first idea better. Or you make a revision just because you want to see how it goes, and it ends up being kind of like a happy accident, right? So it's just kind of trusting the process. And again, like knowing what the end goal is and knowing what needs to come from that. And yeah, again, like I'm not gonna go after his designs because I'm trying to be a dick. Right. Yeah. I'm having a bad day. I'm just going to shit on his designs. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. And it's like, there has to be more rhyme and reason to it, right? That, which is also in the trust building. So now you guys, okay, wait. So you guys working with the sports team and doing all of these like different types of designs, I feel like you also bring a lot of your own flavor to it. You know what I mean? Like, and we were talking about this earlier, but like one of the things that I feel like that stands out about your designs, and I always know when it's yours. It just has more energy, has more flavor. It just like I think you guys should do universities. I feel like you would make their clothes so dope.
We're trying.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm just thinking like if they did a UVic one, that'd be dope. But when you originally started, you wanted to make Vancouver a place that's really dope when it comes to clothes. And now you guys are going to Portugal, right? So like, what did you learn in the Vancouver market that now you want to take, I want to say globally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest thing that I learned trying to make things happen in Vancouver is people in Vancouver don't support things until they work elsewhere in the world. And then when they work elsewhere in the world, they come back, then that's when they find success. Obviously, there's anomalies to that. But that's kind of our approach with this. Yes, we don't produce things in Vancouver with Basico Branco for the simple fact that we just don't have the infrastructure to produce the garments that we're looking to make and at the level of quality that we're looking to obtain. So we had to look somewhere else to actually do this and scale this. It's not that we're abandoning Vancouver, but it's the same thing across music, any type of art medium, clothing, even the big brands that have blown up in Vancouver, like nothing's done locally anymore. So it's very hard to build something when you don't get the level of support to scale. Also, if you're in an environment or in an economy that doesn't support what you're doing. Like the amount of factories that were here 15 years ago compared to now is crazy. Why? Because Lululemon used to be made here, Aritzia used to be made here, Reigning Champ used to be made here. Like there was big brands that were produced locally, and now since those guys have gone overseas because they had to scale, our industry is really kind of like folded in on itself. So when we first started in-house, we were always looking at other places in the world to create our supply chain. We never focused on Vancouver for that simple fact. Like we don't have the opportunity to build a business around the infrastructure that we have in Vancouver with production. Because at the end of all the design process, everything that goes into it, production is still the hardest part about starting a clothing company. Understanding your supply chain, understanding who you're working with, where things are coming from, how all of that stuff works. And when in Vancouver, if we were to do that, there's so many little pieces that we'd have to get from so many different places, which just doesn't make sense. We wanted to build a supply chain that was vertical and everything worked together and in unison, and it just wasn't possible here. So the whole idea behind in-house and like what we were trying to do when we were trying to help build an infrastructure or like some blocks for people to then build on top of, it's really hard. Like you don't get the support that you need to actually even have the opportunity to do that.
To do it. Yeah. It sounds like you went in trying and that was your true intention. And then you kind of realized that like, I don't know if this is going to even work for me. Yeah. There's
definitely limitations. Like the biggest or the best example we thought of were like musicians, where it's like, why do all the musicians have to move to LA to like go blow up? And it's exactly what Graham said. It's because that's where the production companies are. That's where the collaborators are. Like that's where they're going to really be, you know, that's where they're really going to take their career off. So, but a lot of people will always inevitably come back. But I think aside from like those things, like I do agree with all that. I think there also is an element of like, you could say a foundation that we've helped to lay. It's never been about us being the reason for Vancouver to blow up, or us being the company that, or the person that makes Vancouver and puts Vancouver on the map. It's more been about getting people excited and giving people an opportunity to kickstart their own brand or their own business or anything like that. Like when we started, I mean, you weren't here yet, but when I started, when I was 17, like I was just knocking on doors of factories being like, hey, like, do you make clothing here? Blah, blah, blah. Like just trying to figure it all out. It was really difficult to connect all the dots. And that's why when we started in-house, we understood how difficult it was to, I mean, as simple as like where to get a blank, where to get a tag made, where to get it printed, where to get your packaging made. And like maybe you want a thank you card in there. Like those things all happen at 5 different places.
Yeah.
Right. If you're starting a brand or if you have a business that you just want to make merch, like you don't think about that. It's like, oh, I just want to go get t-shirts made. So like there has been, I think, some groundwork on our end laid for other people to also see the opportunities of just making money in the clothing industry or as a creative. And even now, like I see things popping up all the time of like new print houses that are using a similar model to us. And it's like, it's good because it's giving more people an opportunity to create jobs and to be able to scale their businesses. So there's definitely like an element of that will never go away. But to Graham's point, like there is a limit to that. And for us, like now that we're producing in Portugal, like we had to go, like we spent a lot of money, we traveled a lot to like go and find these people, and like it's not something that just happens overnight. But
and
now,
why Portugal?
well, they just have for what we're trying to do and that the volume we're doing, like a pretty reasonable volume. They have the fastest turnaround times and they have the lowest minimum order quantities. Like you can do it in China. We our minimums in China are like 100 units, which is pretty unheard of. Most of the time it's gonna be like 1,000 or 5,000.
I was gonna say 1,000, yeah.
But in Portugal, it's 300, right? So, and the factories that are making our products, they're making products for Palm Angels, Represent Glow, Louis Vuitton, Kenzo, Ralph Lauren, Purple Label, like crazy brands. So the fact that we could be making Palm Angels or Off-White equivalent products at 300 units only, like that's not that far off from what they're doing as well. So it's just being able to be in the same room as that. You're just not going to find that in North America.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be in that same room.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like dream collaborators that you'd love to work with?
Through what avenue?
Just like
in
design
general?
with, or just create something super cool with, create something for?
Personally, I'd like to make something for Tyler the Creator or do something with Tyler the Creator just because of how his mind works.
I wanted to go to his concert just to see his stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just has a different perspective on everything, which I think is super cool. I don't necessarily always agree with it, whether it's music, clothes, or art, but he's always, it evolves so fast. And I think that's such a cool way to like look at things, not to be stuck on like, this is the way it needs to be, like forever being able to just take things and always spin things just slightly so that it's something that nobody's seen before. I think he's really, really good at that.
What about you?
Yeah. Just because my focus is on like the teams and kind of expanding into that, I think when we inevitably get some sort of collaboration with the New York Knicks and do something in Madison Square Garden, I think that would be like a pretty wow moment for me. Yeah, something about just New York City and like the history of that place I think would be super cool. So
I love
we'll
New
see.
York.
Yeah.
Have you been to New York?
No.
Oh my God, really?
No.
I feel like you would love New York.
I always go the other way.
You've obviously been to New York then?
I've only been through, I used to play lacrosse for like a traveling team in high school, and we drove through New York on the way to Baltimore for a tournament. So I haven't like actually spent time there.
But when you drive through it, when you see it, you're just like,
It's crazy.
whoa.
Yeah.
There's a heartbeat and a pulse to that city that it like injects your veins and you're like, whoa. There's so many creative people. There's so much to do. You know what I mean? It's so alive.
It is.
Exactly. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. Like we were talking about this the other day, where it's like even just going somewhere where there's more aliveness and like more culture, I think will just help foster your creativity.
100%.
Yeah.
The more things you're previewed to, the more perspectives you gain.
Yes, exactly. Also, the more life you're going to be around, the more creative your stuff will be. I feel like that a lot sometimes here is like I'm like sometimes you are the art, right? And when you are the art, you have to, when you're being the art, you got to have art around you to like kind of almost like fuel you and pour into you. And even using brands like you're saying, like let's say Lululemon, Arc'teryx, when you're not Lululemon or Arc'teryx type of person, you don't always have that type of fuel in this city. Yeah.
There's not very much going on, and the things that do go on, we don't know about. People don't support it. Like it's not the same. Like in New York, like they support each other, and that's part of that feeling, right?
Yeah.
People show up for each other, regardless if it's like their thing or not. I think there's lots of places in the world that act like that, but New York at the biggest scale probably possible. You see that, like when you go back to the history of hip hop, when you like the brands that have come out of New York, like it's very, very like they rep it. They're proud of it. It's the same thing with like, I mean, the only thing that we have in Canada is Drake. And it's like, oh, Drake is this, Drake is Canada. It was like, well, there's so much more.
So much more.
Or when you go to a city like New York, it's an epicenter for creatives. And there's so many cool things that have come out, and it doesn't just have to be one thing.
No, a variety of things work. Yeah. New York was also the place that taught me that style and like fashion are two different things. Like style, you can have style. You don't have to have money to have style. You just need style. And then fashion and clothing and quality and designers, like those are different things.
100%.
It just takes a credit card to buy that stuff. Whereas style, like, you could literally go to a thrift store and just find a sick outfit. And it's also like an energy as well. Like you could be walking down the street in an outfit that costs $20 and you could be the dopest person walking down that street.
Yeah. Was there anything that you guys wanted to say today that you didn't get the chance to, or that's percolating in your mind?
Just keep an eye out for what we're up to. We just launched Basico Branco, which is the evolution of what in-house was. So like in-house, we're helping brands develop their products, create their brands, and obviously make merchandise. Basico Branco is just an evolution of that. We've been buying other people's blanks and printing on them and selling them back to our customers for the longest time. And now understanding kind of how that market works a little bit more, we've launched our own blanks company. We still offer the decorating services as well, so we can do all the printing and embroidering and private labeling and all that kind of stuff. The cool thing is like I was saying, like we're doing stuff where Palm Angels and Off-White does their stuff. So as a brand or a business owner, you could come to us at 50 units minimum. You could be making the same quality of product as Off-White. You don't have to invest in the development or anything like that. You can just kind of piggyback off the work that we've already done. So our big push right now is getting into the NHL and the NBA as local licensed partners. That's our big push right now. So there's always exciting things happening, but kind of going into the NBA and NHL season this fall, there's going to be a lot of really exciting collaborations to look out for.
Sweet. Where can people find you online?
inhousemade.com or basicobranco.com, at inhousemade on all social platforms, at Basico Branco on all social platforms. So in-house is kind of like the design and creative side of it, and Basico Branco is the product side of it, and there's just kind of this perfect synergy between the two. So go check us out.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.